At 2:15 in the afternoon, local time, a U.S. Air Force B-1 Lancer bomber, assigned to the 34th Bomb Squadron, soared through the skies at 41,000 feet above the Red Sea, just a few miles off the coast of Yemen. Nicknamed the Bone for its sleek fuselage and devastating firepower, the aircraft was on a strategic patrol mission, monitoring Houthi movements in the rugged mountains northwest of Sana'a. The crew, made up of 4 seasoned aviators with thousands of combined flight hours, maintained constant vigilance. The bomber's cutting-edge systems, packed with state-of-the-art technology, scanned the terrain below for signs of hostile activity. What seemed like a routine mission was about to escalate into a historic confrontation, marking the first direct B-1 strike against a Houthi target. A few minutes later, at 2:22, the ANALQ-61A radar warning system, nestled in the belly of the B-1, picked up an unusual signal emanating from a rocky area, 80 kilometers southwest of Sana'a. Sensors identified emissions consistent with a mobile 1S-91 radar, used to guide SA-6 surface-to-air missiles. Though of Soviet origin, this system had been upgraded by Iranian engineers, giving the Houthis an effective range of 30 kilometers and the ability to track low-altitude targets. The radar was part of a fortified underground complex, a stronghold serving as a command hub for coordinating attacks on commercial ships in the Red Sea and U.S. reconnaissance drones. Intelligence had been tracking this target for months, but its exact location and level of fortification remained uncertain until that moment. The defensive systems officer, analyzing real-time data, confirmed the 1S-91 radar was active and likely attempting to lock onto the B-1 as a target. This system could guide SA-6 missiles at 2.9 times the speed of sound, leaving the crew mere seconds to react. But the B-1 wasn't alone. 2 F-35 Lightning II jets, operating in stealth mode 110 kilometers away, provided electronic cover with their ANASQ-239 electronic warfare systems, jamming enemy signals to hinder the Houthis' ability to track the bomber. Additionally, an E-3 Sentry AWACS, flying 320 kilometers to the north, delivered a real-time picture of the operational theater, coordinating U.S. forces' movements. Suddenly, at 2:28, an alarm blared in the B-1's cockpit. The warning system detected the launch of an SA-6 missile from the ground. The pilot, a veteran with over 2,700 flight hours, reacted with surgical precision. He initiated an evasive maneuver, banking the bomber sharply southwest while descending to 25,000 feet to complicate the missile's tracking. The ANALQ-61A automatically deployed a mix of MJU-50B infrared flares and RR-80 chaff packet. Each flare produced a heat burst mimicking the B-1's thermal signature, while the chaff created an 800 square meter cloud of interference designed to confuse the SA-6's guidance radar. The missile, disoriented by the countermeasures, streaked past the bomber 1.8 kilometers away and detonated harmlessly in the air. But the calm was short-lived. Seconds later, the B-1 sensors detected a second missile launch, this time from a position 60 kilometers away. The Houthis, now aware of the bomber's presence, were determined to bring it down. The defensive systems officer activated the electronic countermeasures pod, emitting jamming signals in the 6 to 8 GHz band, enough to disrupt the SA-6's fire control radar. Simultaneously, the F-35s ramped up their efforts, sending electronic pulses that overwhelmed Houthi radars, reducing their accuracy by 80%. Despite these measures, a third missile came dangerously close. The crew, working in perfect sync, deployed a second burst of flares and chaff, creating a nearly 2.5-kilometer wide barrier of interference. The missile, fooled by the decoy cloud, veered off and exploded 550 meters from the B-1. The shockwave rattled the fuselage, but the bomber remained unscathed. The crew knew the underground stronghold, now confirmed as a critical Houthi command center, had to be neutralized before the rebels could launch further attacks. A quarter of an hour later, at 2:43, U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, authorized an immediate strike mission. The B-1, loaded with 24 GBU-31 JDAM precision-guided bombs, each carrying a 900-kilogram warhead, was tasked with leading the assault. Satellite intelligence, combined with data from an MQ-9 Reaper drone flying at 17,000 feet, revealed the stronghold was protected by a network of reinforced concrete tunnels designed to withstand conventional attacks. However, the B-1's JDAM bombs could penetrate up to 4.5 meters of concrete before detonating, collapsing fortified structures with devastating precision. The pilot adjusted course, aligning the bomber with the target's coordinates. The F-35s, maintaining electronic cover, continued to suppress Houthi air defenses, while the AWACS provided real-time updates on potential threats. The B-1 crew meticulously reviewed the bomb's parameters. Each GBU-31 was programmed to strike a specific point in the underground complex, following a staggered attack pattern to ensure the sequential destruction of the tunnels. The offensive systems officer selected 10 bombs for the initial strike, reserving the remaining arsenal for potential secondary targets. At 2:56, the B-1 reached the release point. From an altitude of 28,000 feet, the bomber opened its payload bays and unleashed the 10 JGM bombs in rapid succession. Each bomb, guided by an inertial navigation system backed by GPS, hurtled toward the stronghold with less than 1 meter of error. As the bombs fell, the pilot banked sharply northwest, steering clear of the danger zone. The ADAWACS sensors confirmed that Houthi air defenses couldn't respond thanks to the F-35's interference, which kept enemy radars blinded. 1 minute later, the bomb struck. The first detonation unleashed a massive explosion, kicking up a 350-meter-high cloud of dust and debris. The next 9 bombs, spaced at 5-second intervals, burrowed deep into the tunnel network, triggering secondary explosions that indicated stored munitions, fuel, kamikaze drones, and ballistic missiles. Later satellite imagery would show the stronghold, along with its 6 1S-91 radar, 4 SA-6 launchers, and a stockpile of Iranian-made drones, had been erased from the landscape. The shockwave flattened an 800-square-meter area, leaving a smoldering crater where the complex once stood. But the Houthis didn't back down. 30 minutes later, at 3:26, a group of rebel fighters hidden in a secondary position 18 kilometers from the strike site launched a counterattack. Using a portable X-Flay anti-aircraft missile system, they tried to shoot down the MQ-9 Reaper still monitoring the area. The drone, equipped with a quartet of AN/AR-47 sensors, detected the launch 11 kilometers away. In less than a second, it deployed a burst of infrared flares, diverting the X-FLAS missile, which exploded 600 meters from its target. The Reaper's operator, stationed at a base in Djibouti, adjusted the drone's altitude to 21,000 feet, beyond the X-FLAS's effective 11,000-foot ceiling. However, the drone's sensors detected ground movement. A Houthi convoy, consisting of 6 vehicles armed with heavy machine guns, an improvised rocket launcher, a supply truck, and a mobile command vehicle, was heading toward the strike site, likely to recover equipment or assess the damage. The ADAWACS relayed the coordinates to the B-1, which had returned to a holding orbit 70 kilometers away. CENTCOM assessed the situation and determined the convoy posed a secondary threat that needed neutralization. At 3:45, the B-1 received orders for a second strike. The crew selected 8 GBU-38 bombs, a lighter GDM variant with 225-kilogram warheads, designed for mobile targets. The bomber approached at 25,000 feet, staying out of reach of any remaining anti-aircraft system. The bombs were released in a spread pattern covering a 450-meter-wide area to ensure the convoy's destruction. When the bombs hit, the convoy was engulfed in a series of explosions that obliterated the 6 vehicles and neutralized the Houthi fighters. Follow-up reconnaissance imagery confirmed the strike's success, with the vehicles reduced to rubble and no signs of enemy activity in the area. Still, the B-1 crew knew the Houthis, renowned for their resilience, would likely regroup and counterattack within hours. A few hours later, at 5:15 in the evening, a squadron of 6 FA-18 Super Hornets, deployed from the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, was sent to conduct a final sweep of the area. The FA-18s, armed with AGM-65 Maverick missiles, GBU-12 Paveway-2 guided bombs, and AGM-58 JASSM air-to-ground missiles, struck secondary Houthi positions, identified by the Reaper. Targets included a supply warehouse 22 kilometers from the destroyed stronghold, a camouflaged mobile command post on a nearby hillside, a fuel depot hidden in a secondary cave, and an improvised drone manufacturing workshop. Each Maverick with a 57-kilogram warhead was guided by an electro-optical system, allowing pilots to hit targets with sub-meter precision. The Paveway-2 bombs with 225-kilogram warheads and the JASSM missiles with 450-kilogram warheads completed the destruction, wiping out key rebel supply lines. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe. The operation wasn't without complications. During the FA-18 strike, a Houthi radar system, likely an Iranian Kasta 2E2 model, briefly activated and detected one of the jets. The Super Hornet, equipped with an ANLQ-249 electronic warfare pod, responded by emitting jamming signals that blinded the enemy radar in under 2 seconds. The pilot, staying cool under pressure, completed the mission and returned to the carrier without incident. Still, the encounter highlighted the sophistication of Houthi defenses, which had integrated foreign technology to enhance their detection and response capabilities. In the hours that followed, CENTCOM analyzed the operation's results. The destruction of the underground stronghold, the convoy, and the secondary positions dealt a crippling blow to Houthi capabilities. Intelligence reports indicated the complex housed not only SA-6 missile systems, but also an arsenal of Iranian-made kamikaze drones, similar to the Shahed Verti 6, a stock-tackle of anti-ship ballistic missiles, an explosive manufacturing workshop, and an encrypted communications hub. The loss of these assets would hamper the Houthis' ability to attack commercial and military vessels in the Red Sea for months, if not longer. Yet the Houthi threat remained formidable. Since 2015, the rebels had captured between 20 and 30 SA-6 launchers, along with dozens of missiles, radars, drones, and communication systems from the former Yemeni army. With Iran's backing, they had upgraded these systems, integrating new seekers, more accurate radars, and encrypted communications. Intelligence estimated the Houthis still possessed between 15 and 20 operational launchers, plus an unknown number of portable Itlas-S missiles, attack drones, ballistic missiles, and mobile radar systems. This strike, while successful, was just one chapter in a broader conflict. A couple of hours later, at 7:30 in the evening, a second MQ-9 Reaper was deployed for a damage assessment. The imagery showed a desolate landscape. The underground stronghold, now a 45-meter deep crater, was completely destroyed. The tunnels, once housing equipment, personnel, munitions, fuel, and drones, had collapsed under the JDAM bomb's impact. The convoy, secondary warehouse, fuel depot, and drone workshop were also gone, leaving only debris and charred remains. But the mission came at a cost. During the second strike, the B-1 had flown at a lower than usual altitude of 25,000 feet to ensure the GBU-38 bomb's accuracy. This briefly exposed it to a Houthi portable radar, likely an Iranian model, which managed to emit a signal before being destroyed by an FA-18. Though the bomber sustained no structural damage, the crew reported that fragments from a previously detonated SA-6 missile had struck the fuselage, causing minor damage to an access panel, an external sensor, a communication antenna, and a ventilation duct. Technicians at Diego Garcia, where the B-1 landed after the mission, confirmed the repairs would be quick, with the aircraft back in service in less than 48 hours. This strike marked a milestone in the conflict. It was the first time a B-1 Lancer was used in a direct attack against a Houthi target, showcasing its ability to neutralize underground fortifications with surgical precision. The combination of guided bombs, F-35 electronic cover, ADUACS intelligence support, and Reaper surveillance created a flawless operation that minimized risk to U.S. forces while maximizing impact on the enemy. Still, the Houthis didn't sit idle. At 9:10 in the evening, sensors on the U.S. Navy's USS Laboon detected the launch of 4 anti-ship ballistic missiles from a Houthi coastal position 40 kilometers from the original strike site. The missiles, identified as Iranian Fateh-11 tank models, were intercepted by SM-6 missiles fired from the Laboon. The explosions lit up the horizon, but no damage or casualties were reported. The incident served as a reminder that, despite being weakened, the Houthis remained a persistent threat. At CENTCOM headquarters, officers debated the next steps. The destruction of the stronghold and secondary positions sent a clear message: no Houthi hideout was safe. However, intelligence indicated the rebels were relocating their remaining assets to new sites, likely deeper caves and bunkers. To counter this, CENTCOM ordered an increase in reconnaissance missions, with MQ-9 drones, intelligence satellites, P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft, and RC-13-5 Rivet joint reconnaissance planes, working together to locate the remaining arsenal. A short while later, at 10:40 in the evening, a third MQ-9 Reaper was deployed for a second damage assessment. The imagery confirmed the stronghold's crater remained inactive, with no signs of enemy activity. However, the drone's sensors detected movement 30 kilometers to the east. A small group of Houthi fighters, likely survivors from the convoy strike, was attempting to recover scattered equipment and set up a new observation post. CENTCOM opted not to authorize an additional strike, choosing instead to maintain surveillance to track the rebels' movements and plan future attacks. At 11:20 in the evening, a P-8 Poseidon operating from a base in the Gulf of Aden detected a secondary radar signal in a mountainous area 45 kilometers from the crater. The signal, consistent with an Iranian mobile radar, suggested the Houthis were trying to reconstitute their air defenses. CENTCOM ordered a squadron of F-35s to conduct a surgical strike on the new position. The F-35s, using AGM-58C LRS and missiles, destroyed the radar, a small support convoy, and an improvised weapons cache in under 12 minutes, preventing the Houthis from reactivating their defenses in the area. But the Houthis pressed on. At 11:50 in the evening, a group of rebel fighters attempted a surprise attack on the U.S. Navy's USS Carney, using a small boat armed with improvised explosives. The boat, detected by the Carney's sensors 10 kilometers away, was destroyed by an SM-2 missile before it could get close enough to pose a threat. The explosion, though minor, underscored the Houthis' persistence in counterattacking, even after suffering significant losses. The B-1 Lancer operation not only destroyed a key target but also set a precedent. The Houthis, though battered, remained a viable threat. Their arsenals, backed by years of Iranian support, would require more operations of this caliber to be fully neutralized. Meanwhile, the B-1 crew back at Diego Garcia reviewed mission data, preparing for the next call. In a conflict where every day brought new challenges, the Bone had proven why it remained one of the most feared weapons in the US arsenal. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe.